Spartans haven't lost a beat since Tim Byrie departed earlier this year. Erskine Braggs is now the head coach, and he's also the subject of this week's feature segment. Braggs inherited a Spartan team that won 23 games last year and advanced to the regional finals. The nucleus of that team is back. Sean Coffey's one of the better rebounders in the area, and the team's point guard, Steve Blunt, brings leadership to the Spartan program. But the bottom line to this team is Braggs. He's a '64 graduate of Malabar High School, and it was there his basketball career began. Describe yourself as a player back when you were in high school.
Brian, I was a kind of player that I tried to present a lot of problems to my offensive person that I was guarding. I was a good defensive player. I fashioned my game after some of the great defensive players, and I always believed that defense won games. And so for me, it was a pleasure to play the best offensive player. I look forward to that. It was a challenge to me. So I was kind of a scrappy player. I really tried to play good pressure defense, and you know, it worked out for me.
After graduating from Malabar, Braggs went on to Ohio State to further his education. With a degree in education in hand, he returned to Mansfield, but didn't find himself in the classroom right away. He managed a telephone company for 10 years, then sold sporting goods. It was while he was in sales that he began tutoring children on the side. He then realized what he really wanted to do.
It was kind of interesting to be around kids. I've always wanted to be around kids. I enjoy working with young kids, and so that's how I got back in education and thusly into St. Peter's.
When did you decide you wanted to get into coaching?
I think probably it was always in the back of my mind, Brian. I used to coach Little League, Junior League, baseball, flag football, and I've always enjoyed being around kids. And again, I just thought that if the time was right, I'd like to try it. And then about 8 years ago, I met Joe Guilfoyle, and he got me interested in coaching, and in fact offered me a position on his staff. And I just fell in love with you know, the sport itself and coaching. It's a great profession to be connected to. I had a phone call from a friend of mine who had indicated that the new coach at St. Peter's was looking for some assistants, and he had certain criteria that he wanted in mind. And the person told me that they gave Joe my name and felt that I would meet that criteria. So I talked to Joe, and you know, we hit it off really well. And I liked Joe as a person and as a coach, and then the rest was just a matter of me just saying yes, I'll get on board, and that's how I got there.
Braggs took over the Spartan junior varsity after his meeting with Guilfoyle and enjoyed immediate success. Under his guidance, the Spartan JVs won 124 games in only 6 seasons. Braggs says the success got to him after a while, and he began to yearn for a varsity job.
I think that's pretty much true, Brian. I think that's an accurate assessment. I think about 4 or 5 years into my tenure at St. Peter's, I started thinking I was doing the things I felt that varsity coaches would do. I would go scouting a lot. I scouted all my opponents, and I was always looking for ways to make my team better. And I stayed to all the varsity practices when I was an assistant. And Coach Guilfoyle just started saying, he said, Coach, you know, you should be thinking about getting a head job. He said, you work at it really well, and you do all the right things. And so that's how I really started thinking along those lines then.
What was your reaction when you finally got that job and you found out that Tim Byrie had left?
I was really, I guess, surprisingly surprised, I guess is a nice way of putting it. I was really, it took a while for it to sink in, because I'd been there, like I said, 7 years, and I really thought I'd get the job, but when it actually came time to get it, I mean, I'd been told that if I remained loyal, I would get the job, and I was certainly loyal to the school and the program, and I was rewarded. It just took a while for it to sink in, but obviously I'm very pleased. The shock has worn off, and you know, it didn't take me long to realize that I had a lot of responsibilities thrust upon me, and you know, it's been really a nice situation for me.
Now that he's a head coach, he thinks back to his playing days at Malabar, and he tries to instill his playing style into his coaching.
Yes, I do. I'm a real big proponent that defense wins ball games, and I preach it to my kids every day, and we get after defensively. We really try. We work on defense a lot.
So far, Braggs has been successful. The Spartans took a 5-1 record into this weekend, and things are going the way he'd like them to in his rookie campaign. The Spartans play a tough schedule, and Braggs says this will be a key for the Spartans down the road, and it also helps in meeting some of this year's goals.
When I reflect back on it, Brian, I set a few goals. They were minor in nature. I mean, with our schedule this year, with Shaker Heights and Colonel Crawford in Lexington and Columbus Bishop Reedy and schools like that, Columbus Academy. You know, it's a tough schedule. It's a much tougher schedule than we've had in the past. And purposely, I've asked to try to upgrade the schedule so that we can play better opponents. I'm trying to get some local teams back on the schedule. So one of the things that I set as a goal was to win as many of the games on our schedule that I should win, in my mind, as possible. And
which is all of them.
Well, you know, obviously, you know, we're not going to win all. We lost to Shaker, but you know, we really look forward to playing the bigger to Division I teams, because that's how we're going to get better, and that's going to help us down the tournament trail.
If the Spartans play as a reflection of their coach, they should go pretty far. His philosophy can be summed up in one word: work.
Well, I just believe that there's only one way to play the game, and that's all out. I mean, I believe that I coach very hard. I practice very hard with my kids, and you'll see when we play, Brian, if you've noticed, when you watched our practices, we really try to get after it the whole time we're on the floor. We don't take a break. We try to go full force for the full 2 hours or whatever the amount of time we have. So I would say that would be my style. I love defense. I believe in playing great man-to-man defense, and I believe that my system is predicated on good man-to-man defense and just hustle. We want to out-hustle people. We say that no one will outwork us, no one will out-hustle us, and that's been our philosophy so far.
And we certainly wish him well the rest of his tenure at St. Peter's.